Hey, this is Dominic, and this is your home for the cutting-edge conversations on optimizing your personal performance, lighting up your sex life, and living a purpose-driven life of your own design.
These are the topics that Dominic and I have both struggled with in our own lives and still don't always get right. This is Brian. Welcome to the Great Man Podcast.
Welcome back to part 2 of the 2-part interview series with Lisa Ann, Backstage with one of the 10 most downloaded porn stars in the world. Now, if you haven't listened to part 1, don't be a dummy. Go back and listen to the episode from last week and then come and join us. In last week's episode, Lisa Ann shared with us how we are being manipulated by the porn industry to consume more and more extreme porn subtly over a longer period of time, how one monopoly company called MindGeek that owns all of the major aggregators like Brazzers and Pornhub and RedTube, how they're controlling the industry, but also controlling your experience of what you're watching. And this week, Lisa Ann goes a little bit deeper into some of those things and actually exposes the business of porn, how the industry is sneakily making money in a way, in an era where no one pays for porn. Lisa Ann tells an amazing story about how she crushed Dr. Ruth, the legendary Dr. Ruth, in a debate in Oxford. Lisa Ann was flown out to Oxford to debate Dr. Ruth about the future of porn, and she won in a landslide. You'll hear about that. And then one thing that Lisa actually talks about unprompted that many of you have been emailing us to do an episode about, which is dick size and dick insecurities. And she gives you good reason not to compare your dick to the porn stars you see on TV because there's a list of cameras, camera techniques, pills that performers are taking, injections that performers are taking that make their dicks look way bigger than what they really are. And it'll make many of our listeners much happier about their own dick size. So listen into that. Also in this episode, Lisa talks about how the business is scamming more of its customers than she's ever seen before and how not for you not to get caught up in that mix. Why Lisa Ann took 3 years off of porn, why she got back, and why she may be leaving the industry forever. How fluid and transgender porn is the next big thing that MindGeek and all of its subsidiary companies are shooting in droves. How body image is still a big thing for Lisa, why she got body shamed after dropping 50 pounds. Dropping 50 pounds, she got body shamed from her previous performing weight. Lisa Ann examines and opines on my conservative sexual tendencies, so I lay a few things out on the table and she has a few opinions about that. And we talk again about Lisa's potential retirement plans, leaving the industry for good and releasing this second book of hers. Her first book was called The Life, and she's finishing writing the second one now, and we dive into what that book is about. Enjoy part 2 of this 2-part series, Backstage with Lisa Ann, Top 10 Porn Star.
I got myself back square financially, which is totally fucking awesome. I just remodeled my whole house, threw all my stripper cash into remodeling my house. It's amazing.
I got a question on that. So you've been dancing a lot lately too, right? What percentage of your income over the past few years comes from the dancing versus the performing versus the online stuff?
So it's about 30, 30, 30. And now with my bigger role with Sirius, what I decided to do was when I'm off season from football, I'll travel for 5-6 months and I'll do as many events as I can in those 5-6 months. And then I do none. So the goal is to bring in X amount of dollars in that period of time and carry that over for the year and then not attack events again.
Got it.
But
Cool.
The dancing is ultimately better money than anything because of the show rate that I get myself. So I'm getting $10,000 to go in for the weekend and do 4 shows.
Okay.
And then I can usually pull another $5,000 to $10,000 in tips and sales. So I could walk with $10,000 on the books and $10,000 cash.
Nice.
I will say something about that.
Please
As
do.
much as that money is amazing,
Yes.
I don't feel safe at clubs anymore. It's a real situation where I'm there and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? You want to be in bed. It's harder at this age to deal with extremely drunk and people that are on drugs. Just like the stupid shit of it is like, okay, this is great money, but this is asking for trouble.
Has the behavior of the customers changed? Is it you're just less willing to put up with the shit now?
I think young men have become a lot more sexually aggressive. I think because they don't know how to sexually communicate with women in a polite or a way, they've just become aggressive and they'll just say something disgusting, knowing she's either going to hate me or like me. And that's it. Like, I'm just going to shoot my shot, which is like the mindset of this young generation that I just fucking backed out of a fucking fantasy football league because somebody in the league used the example. I just had to shoot my shot. And I was like, you know what? Fuck all of you. I'm done with you. I hate that expression. It's my trigger right now because there's thousands of girls running these fuck-a-fans. There's thousands of girls prostituting themselves. I am on an island alone here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you said the other day that you were experimenting with something that's actually like allowing you to take back control. That feels good for you. So what's that about?
And that's the OnlyFans thing that I was telling you about. That's the platform OnlyFans. And it is great. But again, I did the experiment the other night for you right after we talked about how many people in here think they can have sex with me. And I lost 50 members.
Yeah, but I thought you also said that there was you would do private masturbation sessions.
I do these solos. It's so much fun. I do these solos. I'd shoot them on my phone. They're 4 to 5 minutes long. Guy sends me the money through a tip on OnlyFans platform. I then respond back to him. What's your name? Is there a wardrobe preference? Some guy will be like, I like you in a business suit and glasses. The more clothes, the better, because it just stalls out the whole video so well to do a striptease. I can map it out perfectly in 5 minutes. And it's just easy. And if I shoot 10 of them a week, which I try to do them all on Wednesdays. So Wednesdays, I webcam at night from 6 to 7. So I'm going to have my makeup, my hair done. So I do all that in the morning and then I just bang out all my solos. And if I do 10 a week, I'm bringing in $1,000 a week just doing these solos. And they literally take me a couple hours to do.
That's awesome.
It's super fun.
Is that the future of women and performers taking back control of their own bodies, their own desires, their boundaries? A friend of mine actually, like a week ago, right, a week before you texted me about what you were doing, he texted me this site. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. It's called Chatterbait. Mm-hmm. Do you know it? Chatterbait, free adult live webcams.
Yep. They're all the same. So Chatterbait is one. My Free Cams is one. I use Cam Soda. The reason I use Cam Soda is because they'll pay stars a flat rate and you don't have to hustle. Like if you're just a webcam girl going on, you have to like ask the guys to pay you so much money to take you into a private room. Like it's a hustle. It's a lot of work. It's still better money than going and having a regular job for girls. But now that so many girls are doing it, the money has really diminished for the girls who don't have a brand name. So it's just trickling in. There's also text applications like Sex Panther. And all these girls hire somebody to do their text for them. So they like give the guy 50% and some creeper is like pretending he's them and texting fans.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So there's all that shit going on too.
Yeah. So it's funny because the business is scamming customers more than I've ever seen. I'm getting hit up once a week by a company like, hey, we'll manage your OnlyFans with you. We do all your DM messages. We do this. I'm like, listen, my safety is everything. So I'm not going to have somebody speaking in my voice to my fans and make me feeling like you're luring them in and I don't know what you're saying. Like that's out. I'd rather make less money and know that I'm not misleading anybody.
Yeah. One of the things that you really changed my behavior when we met up. It was November 7th. It was my birthday of last year, right? And you kind of shared with me what was really going on behind the scenes. And every time you update me, there's like more to be incensed about. But I remember asking this question. It was like, if I want to watch free range, organic, hormone free, like porn, like where do I find it? Meaning conscious porn. Like where could I find porn that I would feel good about? And other than, let's say, someone like you who I know calls all her own shots, like very, very savvy and knows what's going on in the contracts, et cetera. It's hard for me to trust anything that comes from MindGeek or, on Pornhub.
Right. So
one of the things I actually ended up finding was there's this one website called lustery.com. Okay. It's a small boutique, but they're doing it really well. It's real life couples.
I'm going to look this up.
These are people who actually enjoy each other. They love each other in many cases. And there's this one couple that I found that I follow. The names are Luna and James. They're young, they're beautiful. They're like 25 and 27, something like that. But what's really cool about them is that they're like a crossover. They do porn on Lustery, but they also have like this lifestyle brand on YouTube, and they film like their travels around the world. They're influencers. They have
So Johnny Sins and his girl did that as well and do that. It's very interesting. I'm going to look into this because I see that more people are wanting to watch people that are actually connected with each other. Yeah. And that's what I realized through Johnny, and his girlfriend at the time was Kissa. And they just sold all their shit, put their stuff in storage, and just got Airbnbs for a year in like exotic places and shot their adventures. And people fucking loved it.
Yeah, I dig that. Like that's
because you're living through them. But
I think for me, it's always been like, I want to know that the woman in the scene is truly enjoying herself. She's truly being cared for. Like before I could even articulate that to you, it was something that I always enjoyed. Like all the porn I watched growing up were amateur porn, like women who were just like Real Housewives who decided to film that stuff. Right. And there's a complete absence of that, when you go on Pornhub or X videos. And
100%. 100%. There was another thing. So AVN had an event last week at their offices. I didn't go, but my girlfriend who lives in Vegas, when she shoots in LA, I let her stay at my house, and she was going. So when she got back, I asked her a couple important questions because their office is right by a police station. I said, did they have alcohol? It was on a Monday night. She said, yeah.
At the shoot?
At the party. It was a nighttime party. It was a nighttime event. It was like a launch party for their awards coming up this coming year. There was also supposed to be a depression expert there and some other people there talking to talent because we're trying to bring mental health in. Why are you bringing mental health in while you're still giving young people alcohol on a Monday night? So I called AVN the next day and I said, I'm disappointed that you guys had alcohol at this event because I had a list of girls that wanted to go and talk to the mental health experts, and they texted me and said they're not going because there's alcohol there and they're trying to stay clean. Mm-hmm. You're in one side or the other. Yeah. What lane do you want to be in? Yeah. And we also have to start planning events without alcohol. You don't need alcohol at an event. What's the point?
Yeah. Would people show up to that?
Well, the performers didn't know whether they were having it or not.
I got it. And they came anyway. Okay.
And they came anyway. And they'll go for the clout. They need to go for the photos that they're taking there to be in the media that comes out from the event. I just trying to change that mindset. But these couples sites, back to Lustery, what these people do is they have no association with the industry and they just upload their own content. They're also probably uploading it on like Pornhub Amateur because Pornhub has that profile where you can upload content. And I'm sure they're killing it because people like to watch something that's real and people like to watch somebody they don't know. And also there's a lot of very unattractive people in porn right now. All these girls with big fake asses, they just look weird and they look like prostitutes. I mean, I worked with a girl that made me look like I was probably like her mom, like a real conservative mom, because I just have a normal body and she had this big ass and these big boobs and these big lips. And it was like a normal.
Were they all fake?
Everything fake. Oh, so fake.
Fake ass. How many asses in the industry are fake asses?
Right now, about 80%. It's all the girls are doing. Yep. Oh, and here's another thing that I'm writing about. Yeah. Body image.
Yeah.
I still to this day get incredibly shamed about how I look now.
How about how you look?
Yep.
What are you being shamed for?
Being thinner, not having big boobs, having a smaller ass. I'm 50 pounds lighter than I was in 2014 when I left because I became healthier and I had my boobs reduced because I had a lump that I had to have removed. And at that same time, I wanted to limit risk. And I also just started living cleaner and eating cleaner. And I realized what I'm writing is this body image thing is so interesting because men want a woman to look a certain way in porn, but yet they'd never date or be with a woman that looked like that. Mm-hmm. And so when I did my live chat the other night, I also did DMs. So I told everybody for 2 hours, I'll go back and forth and I'll answer your DMs. If there's DMs that are like a question that's being asked a lot, then I'm going to put that question on and answer it for you publicly. And it was like, when are you putting on weight? Why do you look so thin? You look disgusting. I liked you so much better before. So I wrote, well, for those of you who liked me so much better before, Thursdays and Fridays are going to be all content from 2010 and earlier. Right. I'll post it up there and you can do Throwback Thursday, Flashback Friday. But to ever speak to a woman about how her body looks, if there's something you don't like, accept it and move on. Yeah. You have no right to ever tell a woman that she should change. And when you ask her to change how she looks, you're asking her to change. Yeah. And you understand you're speaking to me, But I don't want you to say these things to 20 and 21-year-old girls in the business who maybe change their look a little bit or something you don't like, because it could really hurt their feelings.
Yeah, that could devastate them. And so the question's for you, Lisa. I mean, you're a strong woman, but that's got to hurt. Part of that's got to hurt.
I laugh at it, to be honest with you, because, and this is exactly what I told Tina about. I said, Tina, there is not a woman in the world that would be insulted by a guy telling her she looks too thin.
There's not a woman in the world who would be insulted by a guy telling her she looks too thin. Okay.
Never.
Okay. But here's the thing. Like you don't, did you say 50 pounds before?
50 pounds. 50? Yeah.
Okay. Because looking at you now.
I ate to keep my ass big. I ate to keep my body full, because if I got too thin, directors would say you're looking too thin. I definitely worked at making sure I looked like that.
Okay. And so now what women are doing, instead of eating more, they're just getting more surgeries done.
Yep.
Fast. And this distinction between what men say that what men want in the porn world, in this private world, and then what they would actually be seen with in the public world. What are other things like that you've seen men? I mean, I remember you said with men in their 20s, 30s, and 40s are very different in terms of like their hangups about, say, like dating you, right? You were like, guys in their 40s, if I got this right, tell me if I got this right. Guys in their 40s would like have a lot of guilt and shame. Guys in their 20s would be like, nah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. What is it? Like, why do men in their 40s act that way? Why do guys in their 20s seem to respond that way?
Because I think men in their 20s have been raised a lot differently. I think what you see on TV, I mean, there's gay people in cartoons. We're living in a very gender neutral. It's funny. Like, you know, that guy I told you about, that's like the guy that I love. His name's G.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So G and I have been pretty hot and heavy lately. So it's been nice to be home for football season because it makes us easier. We've been trying to see each other like once a week.
Yeah.
And he took on a new artist. It's this kid, Lil Nas X.
Okay.
And I said, when I first started looking at his pictures, I said, you know, he's gender fluid. He's like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, he'll have sex with boys or girls. Trust me. And he's like, no, I don't really think so. Well, he came out to him. And then on Gay Pride Day, Lil Nas came out to the world. But that doesn't necessarily mean he'll only be with men. He's gender fluid.
How could you tell just by looking at a picture of him?
His mannerisms, the way his facial expressions, the way he carries himself, the way he moves. I can look at a football player doing an interview and tell the same fucking thing. And I just
Are there football players? Are there football players that you know? Yeah.
A ton. Younger generation. A ton.
Okay.
This younger and basketball players are all gender fluid. So he's like, well, give me another example. I'm like, okay, let's talk about Billions. It's your favorite show. I said, remember Taylor? Okay. Yeah. Taylor has now hooked up with a man and a woman on that show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just like rocked his core because he's my age. So he doesn't really understand. So he comes to me for this insight on the younger generation because he feels I'm kind of a little bit more tapped in.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
I'm like, their parents and their teachers were so afraid to raise them to judge anybody or anything that they feel guilty themselves judging anybody or anything. So they're willing to be gender neutral to fit the fuck in. Whereas a 40-year-old man was so guilted about jerking off. His mom told him he'd go blind. Yeah. You know, there was no watching porn, all these things. So he has guilt associated towards his privacy, those private things where these young kids are like, I've got to tell everybody everything so they know I'm not judging them.
Yeah. And I grew up, I'm 40 years old. I grew up in the that's gay generation. All around us, like it was a thing of, oh, don't be gay. That's gay. And so like,
it wasn't very in a harsh way.
No, it wasn't, but it's also not a very forward thinking or accepting way. Like it creates definite boundaries.
Like remember when athletes put earrings in both ears? People would be like, oh my God, he's
that's
gay.
The gay ear. Yeah, you got it. You got the ring in the earring in the gay ear. Yes. Yeah. So
and
things
like
have changed.
Podcasters would say shit like that. It was not a crime. It's a crime.
I remember an interview with Cam Newton and Colin Kaepernick. This was like 2 or 3 years ago when the first openly gay player was drafted. I forget his name now.
Yeah, I remember.
You know what I'm talking about? And I remember the interview, and Cam and Colin were both maybe like 1 or 2 years into the league, 3 years in the league. They were like still young. And the interviewer was like, hey, what do you think about if your team drafted this guy? Would he be welcome? And they both laughed like, why is that even a fucking question?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, of course.
Their generation.
They're like, if he could play ball, like we'll put him on the team. And I remember thinking like, shit, look at these two guys. you know?
But when he got drafted, what he did that the NFL didn't like, and the reason he never stayed in the league, because he didn't go to the draft, but he was at home. And when you're at home, they send a camera crew to you. When he got drafted, he kissed his boyfriend and the camera crew caught it and they showed it. And that was a no-no for the NFL. That was too much.
So when you say it was too much for them, like what happened? Who did what in response to that?
I mean, I do believe this is why he never landed a full-time role on a team and he was not made the 53-man roster that year, even though he was drafted. Undrafted players made the 53-man roster and he didn't.
Okay, got it. And the Rams drafted him, right? It was, I think, Jeff Fisher who picked him. Yeah.
So it's a silent little old school. The NFL is very old school. But so this is a big difference of how young people see things and why they're doing it. They've seen so many people just get bullied on the internet for not being on board that they just want to be on board. They just want to fucking be on board and blend in. And it's easier to be gender fluid now than it is to decide you're straight. Because if you're straight, you're actually kind of
a square. Yeah. It's funny. I'm now that I'm in this arena talking about all this stuff, I find myself following people, sex educators who are fantastic, and so many conversations around polyamory or cisgender this or open, bisexuality. And I feel almost like a square because I'm pretty conservative when it comes to my own preferences. I actually am wildly accepting, and I love the diversity and I love the conversation, but there is a part of me that's actually starting to question, is there something about me that's closed down that maybe should?
It's okay to have a sexual circle around you where you're like, okay, I feel this bubble and this is my good comfort zone. We don't have to force ourselves outside of that bubble because our sexuality is so growing inside us and changing and evolving, and you'll have different triggers at different times in your life where you want different things and you wonder why you wanted that thing and it's just a phase. But I don't believe, even me, I feel in this business, I am the most in a bubble of anyone. I don't want to do tranny scenes, and that's now the next thing. If you don't do tranny scenes, no one wants to shoot you.
Wait, so like to have sex with a transsexual performer?
And I knew I was going to get axed out over it. And I even told everybody, like, this will be my last run because it is not financially profitable for me to produce my own movies. I made that decision after a year of evaluating. There's no money left in the DVD market. There's very little money left in having your own website because now it's platforms. Nobody wants to go and scroll through a whole website and look at genres and shit. So, you really realize this. And then when Brazzers MindGeek was talking to me, the two things that they asked that I said no to was a tranny scene and double penetration, like double vag. Like that's the other thing girls are doing, double anal, double vag. Jeez. I'm not comfortable. And I had to be honest. I said, I'm not comfortable being with guys that I know are comfortable with their dicks and me together. Like that's just where my bubble is, right? Okay. To me, that's borderline. This guy definitely does gay movies and I don't know it. And he's probably bringing something to set. So I'm going to overthink it. Okay. And then the transsexual thing, I said to him, I'm sorry, guys, I know it's the thing, but it's just not something I'm into in my personal life. So, if I felt that inkling or if I was curious, I would be honest about it, but I'm not.
Yeah. And so that's where you draw your line. I'm curious, why wouldn't it be profitable? I mean, like someone as famous as you, like you're one of the top 10 most downloaded on
Pornhub. Because of Pornhub. This younger generation, like I ask every kid under 25 if they've ever paid for porn. They all say no.
That's the thing is they don't pay for porn. So then, okay. Where is the money? Like, where does the money go?
The money goes to MindGeek and allows them to sell their traffic speed to other people like Xbox. It's traffic.
Wait, talk about how that works. How does that work?
So if you have an Xbox now, there's pop-up windows that come in from Pornhub, and Pornhub also has links to Xbox stuff. Now, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm going to dissect it when I go to a friend's house who has Xbox and I can really play with it. But they're selling their traffic because they get more traffic. They're second behind Amazon.
When you say they're selling their traffic, what does that mean?
That means somehow they'll push an algorithm to a company for about 6 hours a day where all of their traffic kind of takes a diversion and segues into maybe an Xbox ad or an Xbox something and then bounces back. But they can move that traffic. It's just like an intersection. They could say this traffic is up. We're going to get our 6 billion hits today. Do we want them all coming right here? Or do we want to set up a roadblock so we feed them to another source for 2 hours? And for those 2 hours, we get $3-4 million.
Wait a minute. So Pornhub because people go there. There's so much traffic, like 6 billion hits today.
Billion unique hits a day.
Then where the money is where they direct up a user who's there to an Amazon or to an Xbox or and that's how they get paid?
Yep. And that would be illegal to do in the United States, but it's not illegal for them to do because they're based in Montreal.
Holy shit. And you were also telling me that one of the ways that young boys are getting on porn is like they'll be playing Xbox or PlayStation and a pop-up will come up, right?
Yep. And they're on the internet. So when that pop-up comes up, they click it, they're at Pornhub.
How young are some of these guys who are emailing you, telling you that they've been like watching
12.
your stuff? Yeah. I've been watching you for years because.
Oh my God. I mean, 25-year-olds have been watching me for 15 years. I'm like, so you were 10. Like, yeah.
and they found you.
Also, they're not stupid. They'll put in the word tits. That's it. Heaven has been found. They're going to, you know what I mean? Like they're not stupid. And also their parents are not monitoring their internet.
Yeah. And all it takes is just like go down the rabbit hole once.
Another thing I have on my notes is Dr. Ruth. She gave me her home phone number. Yeah. And I really would like to make an introduction with the two of you. I think that she would be dynamic for you to talk to because remember, this is the first woman that ever said the word penis on television. She's the most unoffensive, sexually open, incredible woman. Remember her history.
Yeah.
And when I got to do that event with her in London this year.
Right. Did you ruffle some feathers over there in London?
Oh my God, it was so amazing.
What was the event about again? So
the event wasn't a debate. I actually had a debate at the Oxford Union against Dr. Ruth, which was heartbreaking to me. I had watched her Hulu documentary the week before I went. I was like, oh my God, I have to go against this woman. But the topic was this. Now that Theresa May is out, this is probably not going to happen. But she was a proponent of this. And it was England would be the first country to establish 18 and up for porn viewers where there would be a facial recognition scan. There was going to be all of these levels put into computers. Everyone at home, there was going to be residence checks. How many minors do you have here? We're cutting this off from your internet. It's not going to. They were doing everything they could to put this in play. And the debate was about whether it should be happen or not.
Right.
I was pro yes, it should happen. She was not. She believes that everybody should have access to sexual tools and anything that could educate them and help their growth.
That's fascinating. Wouldn't you think most people, you would be on the other sides of things, but okay. Right. Got it.
So I was speaking with a bunch of conservative doctors. I had 5 people on my side. She was speaking with people, sex experts from all over the country. And the Oxford Union, pretty awesome experience because it's all student run. You know, it was the students that reached out to me to set this up, to send the liaison. They gave me an American student who now just lives in New York who I've kept in touch with. He walked me around the campus all day. Like it was a great experience. But I beat her by a landslide. I was the last speaker. Before I went up, I really felt the room was leaning because the kids were like, we learned everything we know about sex and from porn and we watch it every day and we don't know what we would have done and this is unfair. And actually, I can send you the video as well. Yeah. The type of content that someone like Dr. Ruth does not know that's being shot, the type of scenes that are being asked of girls, the amount of violence, the amount of degrading interaction. There is no education in what is being put on the internet for you. There is no reason to access it unless your parent decides they want to log you in and say that it's okay for you to watch this, then you would be able to do this. So I gave a really good speech. They voted afterwards. It was 181 to 79. I beat her by a fucking landslide.
In your life's proudest moments, is it creating those 4 changes in the testing industry or beating Dr. Ruth in a debate? Which one ranks higher?
Well, when we sat down before the debate, this is the one that ranks higher. She looked at me and she was like, listen, I can't be nice to you because we're debating against each other. So we'll have to all share our niceties to after. She asked me a bit about myself. I told her I'm in New York a lot. She wrote her home phone number down on a fucking napkin.
Yeah.
She's like, come over to my house for coffee. I'm like, you will never get rid of me. Like,
she sounds awesome.
Yeah. So I'm making time. My next trip, she's going to be home. Her assistant and I have organized time for me to go and see her in Franklin Heights. But I said to her, how about this? I'll make you a little friendly wager. I will come over and make you dinner if I lose. But if you lose, you have to write me a little blip for my new book.
Oh, and nice.
She said, no problem. So I won. I already sent her a copy of my first book, which she's reading right now.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a big move. But what I really wanted to reach out to the students about was that they needed to be watching less and doing more. and that sexual interaction should be created between these humans together, and that they're not having enough sex and they're not experimenting on their own nut. They're just going for the easy way out, and just watching. And then I did a little bit afterwards. I said, I just want to tell you all some fun facts to make you feel better about what you're watching. First and foremost, I said, this bit right here is because I want every guy in this room to feel better about his penis. And Dr. Ruth just started dying laughing. I explained that we use a fisheye lens.
Which you told me about for the first time. What does a fisheye lens do?
It enlarges the surface, makes the girl's boobs look bigger, her ass look bigger, makes the guy's penis look bigger.
Yeah.
And I said, we also use male performers that are normally between 5'8" and 5'10" and that are very lean, making their dick look even bigger because they're a dick on a stick. They're a short guy with a big dick. It's going to look huge because proportionally, it's just going to look huge. And then I said, I also want you to know that there's not just PEDs in professional sports. Most porn stars are popping a Viagra or they're injecting their dick with something, and that's how they're walking into the room. Hard.
You said that mostly it was the white performers who were doing
performers take pills, and do shoot up. I can't say that in a group setting that's being videoed because I'd be racist.
Got it. Okay.
So when you walk into a room and you start engaging sexually, you should not be hard on yourself that you're not hard yet. You should actually want this process to happen slowly. It doesn't feel good for a girl when it's hard like that, fake hard. I said, and it's not good for you as a young person to start taking Viagra to have that. I said a couple other things. And when I was done, the whole room stood up and cheered. And then as I walked out, I did photos with everyone afterwards. And every guy said, man, thanks for making me feel better about my penis. Moving forward, I know that I'm ready to face and really enjoy the next stage of my life. And I know I'll stay involved in the industry actively, politically, educating girls, probably mentoring a bit, working with some of the agents. But as for performing, I think the health risk has started to affect me mentally more than ever. And again, no joy.
No joy. And it's very clear. So are you saying that you're done performing now, or are you winding it down and there's like a date on the horizon?
I'm winding it down. I haven't shot anything in 2 months and I have nothing on the books.
Okay.
And I just told everybody I wasn't going to do anything during football season. So that buys me time.
There's a whole 8 months ahead, basically.
Yep. And I'll just shoot my solo stuff for my site. Like now for my website, I just shoot all my own stuff. I just set up my camera in my house. I shoot a photo set with my little remote control. Yeah. I edit the photos. I just taught myself how to edit a little bit. So I put a video together, send it up to my webmaster. He's also in Montreal. Then I'm done. Here's another thing with my production company. This business is just as lazy as it ever was. And my last day on set, my own camera guy was an hour late.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just all this little shit is like giving you signs.
Like, guys, sorry, not worth really, I'm here on time and I've got to wait for you. And then I have to pay an extra overtime at the location and all that stuff.
It sounds like a possibility, since you're not shooting during football season. The first preseason game is tonight, that you may have shot your last scene.
I may have. And I have no remorse about it.
Hey, did you get something of value out of this podcast? If so, I'm going to ask you a favor. Would you be so amazing as to go over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and a review? Your ratings and reviews can show someone who's just discovered our podcast for the first time that we are worth listening to. And that way we can reach a wider audience. So please head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and review. You rock.